What's out there?
Arrestor Cruiser. Cantwell-class. 3 clicks and closing.
Luthen Rael's battle with the Cantwell-class Arrestor Cruiser in Andor Season 1 is beloved by its fans for its awesome action and fun Bond-style ship gadgets, but did you know the ship he faced off against dates back all the way to the early production of A New Hope in 1977? Let's take a look at this fascinating piece of Star Wars history. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and this is the Cantwell Cruiser. Design. The Kuat Drive Yard's Cantwell-class Arrestor Cruiser, also known as the Cantwell-class 410 Cruiser or just the Cantwell Cruiser, was a somewhat unusual design for an Imperial starship. While it still featured the traditional large wedge-shaped hull, it was inverted on the Cantwell, tapering to the back instead of to the front. Its command tower and 3 engines were at the narrow rear of the wedge, and at the front it had 2 hangar bays and a long, narrow bow. The main feature of the ship were 3 large RT-17 repulsor tractor beam emitters, one at the very front of the ship and the other 2 at the ends of short arms near the middle. The positions of the tractor beams at the extreme edges of the ship make me wonder if there is a specific reason they were placed there. Perhaps the designers of the Cantwell wanted to limit the crew's exposure to the energy emitted by the dishes, or perhaps they were placed very far apart from each other to increase leverage when in use. Or both. The hangars of the Cantwell class are a bit interesting as well. The actual exposed hangar space does not seem particularly large, but the ship was said to be able to carry 24 starfighters and numerous shuttles and utility vessels. This must mean that there are additional storage facilities for these craft deeper inside the vessel, possibly even taking up a majority of the volume of its main hull. In-universe, the designer of the Cantwell class is unknown, but it is named after Walex Cantwell Blissex, one of the Republic's most prolific starship designers. He created the Delta-7 Aethersprite, the V-Wing, the A-Wing, and the Gladiator-class Star Destroyer, among others, so it's certainly possible he created the Cantwell in the final days of the Republic before defecting to the Rebel Alliance after the Empire arose. However, considering it is named after him, the Cantwell was almost certainly designed by his daughter Lyra Wessex instead. She was one of the most prolific starship designers in the Empire, and her design team was responsible for the Venator, Imperial Star Destroyer, Executor-class Star Dreadnought, and Raider-class Corvette, among others. In real life, the original concept for the Cantwell class was designed by Colin Cantwell for Star Wars A New Hope. It was originally intended as a Sith carrier before the Empire was selected as the movie's antagonist, and its 3 dishes were going to be weapons to destroy enemy ships. The Sith carrier was passed over in favor of one of Cantwell's other designs that went on to become the Imperial Star Destroyer, but the dish laser idea went on to be used in the Death Star's super laser. Decades later, the design team for Solo: A Star Wars Story rediscovered the carrier in Lucasfilm archives and repurposed it as the detainment cruiser we know it as today. Unfortunately, nearly all of its scenes were cut. One scene showing Han Solo serving aboard one during his TIE pilot training was released as a deleted scene, but another scene showing the Millennium Falcon being captured by a Cantwell class was scrapped entirely before even being filmed. Fortunately, with the VFX asset fully built, the design was able to appear in all its glory in Andor Season 1. Specifications. The Cantwell-class Arrestor Cruiser measured 1,363.13 meters long by 667.42 meters wide and 229.78 meters tall. It had a Class 2 hyperdrive with a Class 12 backup. Its top atmospheric speed is unknown, and it may not have been capable of atmospheric flight at all. I would estimate it to be around 900 kilometers per hour though, based on its sublight speed of 75 megalight per hour. The ship was fairly well armed, with a triple tractor beam array, 3 heavy turbolaser turrets, 2 twin heavy ion cannon turrets, and 12 light laser cannons. It was also capable of carrying 2 squadrons of 12 starfighters each in its hangars, as well as various shuttles, landing craft, and utility vehicles. I would imagine it would typically carry at least 1 Lambda or Iota-class shuttle, a few V-82 ITT dropships, and possibly a couple of LEAT-LEs. For starfighters, the Cantwell was known to carry standard TIE fighters and TIE boarding craft, though these could surely be swapped out for other similarly sized TIEs if the need arose. The ship required a crew of 2,770 personnel and could carry 144 passengers, 4,050 tons of cargo, and 1 year of consumables. Officially, the ship is listed at a price of 2.2 million credits, but that is completely unbelievable for its size and capabilities. That price comes from the Starships and Speeders RPG guide, which was published before we got to see the ship in full in Andor. Perhaps the authors thought it was something more in the size range of a CR-90 corvette or Pelta-class frigate when assigning it a price, as ships as large as the Cantwell are usually in the tens of millions of credits. A price of 22 million would probably be more fitting for the Cantwell class. History. The Cantwell class was designed over the course of 3 years early in the Imperial era, as the Imperial Navy and Department of Imperial Justice both sought out a warship capable of easily capturing pirates, smugglers, and other problematic vessels. It entered service sometime before 13 BBY, and may have been fairly new yet at that point when Han Solo saw a recruitment film featuring a Cantwell class on Corellia. 3 years later, Han Solo was briefly assigned to a Cantwell as part of Onyx Squadron, before being reassigned to the Imperial Army after disobeying orders to abandon a fellow pilot in danger from pirate starfighters. In 5 BBY, rebel leader Luthen Rael was nearly captured by a Cantwell over Segra Milo after paying a visit to Saw Gerrera, but he was able to destroy the ship's forward tractor beam emitter by tricking its captain into maxing out its tractor force and then launching metal flechettes into the dish, ripping it to shreds. He then escaped to hyperspace before he could be snared in either of the other tractor beams. Later that year, 2 other Cantwell cruisers were present at the construction site of the Death Star over Scarif to capture any potential witnesses who may stumble onto the scene. This is currently the last we've seen of the Cantwell, but it was likely used by the Empire throughout the Civil War as a cheaper and simpler alternative to the various models of interdictor cruisers, in places and situations where a ship fleeing in local space was more of a concern than them jumping to hyperspace. And that's everything there is to know about the Cantwell-class Arrestor Cruiser. Please let me know what you think of this ship, and what other ships you'd like to see covered in the future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC, out.